It's the old adage, right? The best way to stop a bully is to smack him on the nose hard. Some people would say that the pen is mightier than the sword. Yeah, I acknowledge that. But you've got to sometimes have a gun with which to hold your opponent at bay whilst you put pen to paper.
Harry Baxter is an Australian citizen who admits helping to fight another country's war. He says he doesn't pull the triggers, he just helps to make them. Harry Baxter has spent much of the past few years either on Bougainville or in the neighbouring Solomon Islands, helping in any way he can the Bougainville Republican Army in its fight against its rulers, Papua New Guinea.
I know that I can get myself in a lot of trouble doing this, but I've got to make it clear that I'm not a mercenary. I don't get paid for this.
He may not get paid, but his work is highly valued in this dirty, largely unreported war on our northern doorstep. The Bougainvillians, who feel ethnically closer to Solomon Islanders, are battling for independence from a Papua New Guinea equally determined to crush the rebels. And Harry Baxter is fully aware he could get caught in the crossfire.
Would you accept that you would be a legitimate target?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I would have to accept that.
Before reaching the final layers of overburden, they cleared 550 acres of jungle.
Harry Baxter first went to Bougainville back in 1969. Then he was a young civil engineer, helping to start up a massive copper and gold mine. A mine that forced locals off their traditional land. Baxter was there 3 years, and he didn't like what he saw.
I got to know the people, and I began to understand why they didn't want to give up their land. It's been part of their heritage for hundreds and thousands of years. And yeah, it was their country, and we had no right to forcibly take the land from them.
The mine once provided up to 40% of Papua New Guinea's income. So it's not surprising they want Bougainville back under their control. But for the moment, the mine is abandoned. Buildings vandalised by the BRA, everything that can help them fight their war put to use, from heavy machinery to a fully equipped workshop. And that's where Harry Baxter comes in. Illegally entering Bougainville from the Solomon Islands, he helps make shotgun shells out of ball bearings, create rifles from scrap metal.
Any bits of pipe, stainless steel, water pipe, anything. Anything.
It's pretty basic, isn't it?
It's very basic.
Is it effective?
Oh, devastating.
Ammunition is scarce, but Harry Baxter helps salvage World War II shells buried on beaches.
We're using Second World War Japanese cannon shells. We can only fire one at a time, but they're devastating.
And they have been used in combat against PNG troops?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
But on this trip, his piece de resistance isn't a gun, but armoured vehicles, a personnel carrier, even armoured bulldozers. The finished product later, but first the mysterious Mr. Baxter. This Irish-born Australian is cagey about his past. At some time he's learned about weapons, but he refuses to talk about his history, either here or in Ireland.
It's a risk for me even to expose myself to television like this, and I'm not prepared to state whether I've been in action or not been in action. Also from the point of view of my background, am I formally trained or informally trained or what? Because in exposing myself, I don't want those who oppose me to know my capabilities.
Should they be concerned about your capabilities?
I would worry.
What Baxter will say is that he recently came within a whisker of finalising an arms deal for the Bougainvillians. 400 rifles cost $350,000.
I've been trying, I admit, to get them some sort of weaponry from the outside.
And what happened?
We weren't able to obtain the funds to do it.
Will you try to set up the deal again if you get the money?
Well, the deal is already in place. It's just a case of getting the money.
Those rifles would make a big difference to the battle for Bougainville, and news of how close it all came to being pulled off will worry Papua New Guinea. The BRA rebels have fought their war with slingshots, bows and arrows, and more recently with a few ancient homemade rifles and shotguns. They have just a handful of modern weapons, and they came from raids on Papua New Guinean soldiers.
There were about 3 PNG Defence Force soldiers in there, and all of them were wiped out within 5 minutes.
Harry Baxter says he's not helping the BRA out of a desire for bloodshed. He says the real war he's fighting is for the children of Bougainville. One of PNG's tactics in this war is to block supplies from rebel-held areas. That includes food and medicine.
The need is now. Not next week, not next year. The need is now.
This year alone, up to 4,000 children could die from simple, preventable diseases like malaria and measles.
Now, if you had an Australian city with a population such as Bougainville of 120,000 people, and 3,000 to 4,000 children died every year from disease, preventable disease, there'd be a hue and outcry.
Harry Baxter says he's also angry at Australia's contribution to Papua New Guinea's war effort. Last year we gave $50 million to PNG in military aid. We've also given them 4 helicopters, which they've been accused of using as gunships. And we also provide training for PNG soldiers. Harry Baxter says he's making it his business to convince Australian taxpayers their dollars aren't being well spent.
They need to know the facts. They need to know that their tax dollar, the Australian public's tax dollar, is going towards or contributing to the deaths of young children.
But back to Harry Baxter's mechanical monsters. More at home in a Mad Max movie, these giant, armour-plated vehicles will be used by the rebels to crash through PNG lines. Baxter knows his handiwork will probably lead to bloodshed, but he is unrepentant. If you were to go back there today, how would you rate your chances of surviving?
I wouldn't rate them very high at all, because PNG know of me, and they know all about me. I wouldn't expect to come back.
And will you go back?
I'll go back, yeah.
You're willing to take that risk?
Yeah. Someone has to do it.